This video is for chapters 29 and 30, and 29 has you create a form, a fill-in form. And so I'm going to just show you some of the little tips and tricks about inserting those form fields. In order to start, you want to click on the Developer tab. If you don't have the Developer tab, then you want to go to your Word options, and you can do that here. You can go to File Options, and you want to customize the ribbon. And here you'll be sure there's a check mark in the Developer tab. Alright, so on the Developer tab, you have your controls for your forms field. There are some advanced things you can do. We are not going into the advanced things. What we're going to do is talk about the basics of forms. You want to use the little toolbox here that gives you the legacy forms. Those are the simple forms you can enter. If you try to go into the ActiveX, then you're going to get all kinds of things you don't know what to do with. This is very advanced and would require you to know a bit about programming. So if you want to insert a field that somebody will type in, you just click on Text Form Field, and it just pops that in there for you. If you double click on it, there are things that you can put in here. For instance, you can put in default text that says type name. And when I click OK, then type name is going to be in there. So then I'll show you some of the others. If I click here and I go to a checkbox, that actually puts in a checkbox for me that can be checked when the form is locked. If I do a drop-down form field, then I can double-click on the form field and I get this option to put in the things that I want in my drop-down list. So Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah. That's the four corner states. And then OK, and then there it is. Now you see I can't do anything with it because my form's not locked. So it just shows the top one. If you want the top one to say pick one, then you have to add pick a state and move it up to the top. Whoops. And then OK. And now it says pick a state there when somebody looks at it. If I go in and let's see, you don't have to do either of these. This inserts a frame, and this does some form shading, and this is erasing. So these are the three that you're going to use in your assignment. Now, it's important that you restrict the editing. So I'm going to click on Restrict Editing, and I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see better. I'm sorry that was so little. Over here, it says Restrict Editing, and I'm going to say allow only this type of editing, and then I'm going to tell it filling in the forms. Then I'm going to say Start Enforcing Protection. It asks for a password. You do not have to put on a password. If you do put on a password, you have to tell me what it is so I can get in and out of the document. But if you don't want a password, then you just click OK. If you click Cancel, it stops the whole thing and you have to start over. So now that this form is protected, if I go to the first form field, you'll see I can't do anything. I can't type anywhere. I can't. It just goes into the forms. So here, if I go into the first form, I can type my name, but I can't. The next thing I have to do is the X box. It just goes from field to field. And here I can pick a state, but I can't type anywhere else on the document. It's completely locked to me except for my form field. So be sure that you restrict editing. If you do that and then you realize you need to make a change in your document, you can stop the protection, and then you can go in here and do whatever it is you wanted to do. And I can't stand to have those not have spaces between them. Okay, and then you can start the enforcement again. And you can see here I can do things, but I'm going to start the enforcement. No password. And because I've already typed in it, it left the things in that I'd already done. But now you see I can't type down here. It goes right up to the form field. Whenever I click here, it goes up to the form field, up to the form field. Okay, so that's the basics of forms. Not difficult if you don't sweat over it. Just be sure that you use the legacy. Let me get a new document because I won't be able to do anything in this one. Be sure you go under the tool chest and use these legacy form fields, and then you won't have any trouble. Alright, so the next thing is macros, and I've put a short macro into my instructor's notes. If you saw that, then you know that I have a macro that will indent text. Oops, sorry. And I'm just going to put my spaces in here so that it doesn't bother me. Okay, so if I wanted to indent the second paragraph, I just click on my little arrow for the macro that I made when I was in the instructor's notes. So this time what I'm going to do, I'm going to undo that, and it's doing a lot of things there, so I need to let me just make it normal here. That'll be faster. Okay. This time I'm going to actually open a document. So I want to open a new document, and I want it to be a calendar. So to do a macro, there are several ways to start it. Because I've been using Word for so long, I go to the View tab. You can do it whatever way you find in the book. And I'm going to click on the down arrow and go to Record Macro. I'm going to tell it to open calendar, and again, no spaces in the macro name. I'm going to give it a keystroke, and I'm doing a keystroke because in the instructor's notes I showed you a button. So if I do Alt-C, that is unassigned. So I can assign it to my macro by clicking on Assign, and then it's in this little current keys box, and close. Now that I've assigned the keystroke, nothing shows up here because it's a keystroke. So I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go to File and New, and I'm going to tell it I want a calendar. And it's searching thousands of online templates, and all these are going to come up. And I'm going to tell it I want this green one, just for no other reason than it's there. And I'm going to click Create. And what it is actually finding that template from the internet and creating that calendar for me. And then it opens up with these options to fill in the month and the year. At this point, I'm going to cancel that, and that's okay. And then I'm going to go back to View, Macros, and stop the macro. Now I'm going to close this document and not save it. And I'm going to run my macro. And the macro key is Alt-C. So when I do Alt-C, it's going to find the new document. I paused the recording because the macro didn't work right. So I've stopped right here so you can see I've recreated the macro. And when you get to this window when you're creating the macro, instead of clicking Cancel, just click OK. And it'll show you this, that you can change the date by doing Shift-Alt-Enter or going to the Calendar tab. Okay, so now I have a calendar for July 2016. When I was creating the macro, I could have put in the title and so forth, but I just want to show you real quick that it worked now that I did it the other way. So let me close this, and I'm not going to save it, and I'm going to do Alt-C. And it's actually now going to open the calendar with the option to select your month and year. So be sure if you do this one, you click OK and not Cancel. Now I'm going to do it again because I want to show you that you can actually fill in this information and don't save and have it work for you. So I'm going to actually go Macro, record a macro. And I'm going to say open calendar, and it's going to ask me if I want to override it, and I'm going to say yes. No spaces, keyboard shortcut. Yes, I want to replace it. Alt-C is my shortcut, so I'm going to assign it and close. Now I'm going to go to File, New, and if I needed to search for it, I could, but I've got it right here, so I'm going to click on Calendar and Create. Now, when it creates it this time, I'm going to change titles. So I'm going to say OK here and OK here. And then for my subtitle, I'm going to put my name, I had to tab to get down there. That's one of the things you cannot do in a macro is click in some places. So I'm going to tab again. Oops, I didn't want to do that. So if you make a mistake like this and you need to get rid of something in a table, you have to do it from here. You can't do like the right click and delete. So I'm going to delete this row because I didn't mean to get that. And now I'm down in the title. So now in the title I can say B240 Advanced. When something goes wrong, it all goes wrong. Word processing. And then I can go up here and I can tell that to be a title 1, a heading 1. And in here I can tell this text to be this is how you create a calendar with a macro. Okay, so now I'm through. Now I'm going to go to View, Macros, and Stop Recording. Now that I've stopped recording, I'm going to close this document and not save it. And I'm going to run my macro. Hopefully it works. Okay, and this is July 2016, so I'll say OK. And OK again. And now we'll see if it changes my other things. And it does. Very good. Okay, that's all. Hope you have fun with macros. Remember, you can do anything with them, but the main thing is you start the macro, you give it a name, either make it a button or a keystroke, then you follow all the steps you need to do to create your macro, and then you stop the macro. And it's as simple as that. If you find things you can't do in the macro, then either find another way around it or text me and ask me how to fix it. Have fun!